Hey guys, we're here in Seattle, Washington, and we're going to do a tour of the tiny Tack house. Let's go check it out. Hello. How are you?
We started the build in May of 2011, and we finished at the end of November that same year.
Moved in December 1st.
Yeah, we put in about 800 people hours of work into the entire build. The tiny Tack house is on a 20-foot trailer, and we are about 8.5 feet wide on the outside of the wheel wells. So the inside walls are about 7.5 feet.
I usually say it's about 140 square feet, not including the loft. I looked at the standard size of doors and they just didn't look like, and of course being a 3D artist, so I was able to actually create my house in 3D first and look at it. And so I put a standard size door on it and it just proportionally just didn't fit. And so we decided to do a custom size.
So one major concern that I had with the size door is if I'm actually standing in the door frame, I am too tall for the door. But like Melissa just mentioned, because you're stepping either up into the house or down out of it, it hasn't been an issue at all for us. I've never even come close to hitting my head on it.
I would say about 13 hours of the day is spent on this. So this is my station. So in terms of tiny house, yeah, this is a massive place to me because this is my designated area. But, you know, aside from also working as that, it does serve as our dining room table too. So we have the one set chair that I use, but then we also have a separate chair for Christopher that he can pull over also during dinner time.
Do you also use this as a TV or a movie?
Yeah, this is kind of our entertainment area. And so we actually put it on a wall mount here so that this guy can actually pull all the way out and then rotate depending on how we need it to.
We originally thought we were going to do a little flip out bed, but we realized that we really don't have many people come and visit that would be staying in the house overnight. So it is long enough to sleep on, but we wanted storage inside it.
Yeah, so there's plenty of storage.
Yeah, sleeping bags, extra smaller camera bags, some of my audio gear, a couple overflow clothes that are more for winter.
This is almost all of our closet space. Well, in terms of closets, yes. Clothing-wise, we still have a little overflow up in the loft. But this is where we keep all our hanging stuff, our coats, and then our little cubbies that we also, they're just like little collapsibles. We'll keep some stuff, and then he's got camera gear in here also.
That's pretty incredible that you have the size of a closet that's probably, I don't know, a quarter of normal closet size, and it's for 2 people, and you're able to fit everything in there, plus have space for your camera gear.
And I still want to downsize more, but he won't let me because I have nothing basically.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the few spots, actually maybe the only spot in the house where you can see our insulation.
You can reach in our wall and grab our insulation.
So one thing that we wanted to do a little bit differently is we had heard of alternate insulation options. And so we went with some wool insulation from Oregon Shepherd, and it worked out really well for us. So our subfloor is 2x6, and then our walls are 2x4, and it's all just loose insulation that you just kind of stuff in there.
It was really easy to put up a couple boards and then stack the wool in there and to put up a couple more boards. They at the point in which we first contacted the company, they did create bats that you can put in, but we thought the stuffing stuff was just so easy, and any little cracks or crevices, you just jam it all right in there.
This is where Seth Cat's litter is.
Oh.
And so we've got his litter box, and there's an entry port through the bathroom for him to get in there.
And then this is the spot where you can empty it, so it's easier to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's nice that everybody goes to the bathroom to do their business.
Exactly. So originally, this space was fairly empty.
It was
we had a
empty.
shelf.
It was completely empty. We just had a little IKEA bookcase over next to the refrigerator, something we brought back from our apartment.
And so we decided we did want to have the flip up, even though it is just a couple inches in a tiny house. That makes a pretty big difference in space. And then we put storage on both sides. We've got the few books that we kept, a lot of stuff we donated to the library, and then all of my many hard drives over here. So
yeah, so you guys can both actually be working here at the same time if you need to.
yeah.
Yep. And because of doing 3D, I actually designed, I think, 8 different versions of this for us to figure out what was going to work for him. And this ended up being the finalized one. And so some comments that we get a lot is, you know, the kitchen is a little too small for both people to work in. But the nice thing about a couple living in a tiny house is you get used to each other's personal space, and if I know he's cooking something here and he's going to need to wash his hands, I'll probably be out of his way before that moment even happens. I designed it with the idea this would be my main working space, and so anytime I need something, it's going to be right here behind me, and so I can just grab and pull and do everything right here. And then I also have underneath cabinet space. I did something really, really simple design-wise. I mean, I just put in some little, you know, little sliders in here, and then a couple shelves down below just for the extra storage.
You actually have a pretty large refrigerator for a tiny house.
Actually, one of the reasons why we got this was because we spoke with Brittany before going in and actually building our house, and she has the little compact one that has the freezer unit inside, and she mentioned that it really doesn't serve too much as a freezer itself, and so we really wanted a dedicated space, and so we decided to do this unit, which is a 4 cubic foot refrigerator that has a separate freezer and fridge.
What kind of cooktop is that?
It's a princess.
Yeah, it's traditionally like a more of a boat stove.
We thought a 2-burner would be fine, going from, I think we had a 4-burner down to a 2-burner. It's been a work to readjust, but it's, you know, 3.5 years in and still going good.
Yeah, we make it work. I think the largest challenge is how close the 2 burners are to each other, because if we'll have a saute pan on there, for instance, that's pretty much covering a portion of the second burner, so you can still use 2 at the same time, but you just have to keep an eye they don't knock something off.
Right.
People are really good at adapting to their environment, and so, you know, we didn't just jump into our tiny house and know how to live in it. It became a time process, and we figured out, you know, things that he does and then things that I do, and we worked with each other on it. A lot of people have, you know, talked about having a sink that's super deep, or, you know, like going full extreme with, you know, the double, but even for 2 people, the single unit seemed to work just fine. We don't accumulate too much. We have, you know, 4 small plates, we have 4 big plates, we have a little container of silverware and a couple, you know, utensils and a couple pots and pans, so, you know, we didn't really need too much space to dedicate to it. And I know a lot of people, you know, build their houses around their sinks, but I would definitely say our house was the first thing that, you know, was designed, and it was definitely our shower.
We actually ended up using a half of a wine barrel for our shower. So it is oak. We did nothing special to seal it because these are held together by the wood expanding, and if you seal it, it's going to dry out and it's going to shrink and it's going to fall apart. Melissa really wanted a round shower curtain rod, but we were having trouble finding them for a reasonable price and the right size, because obviously we had a very specific size that we needed. And we were at the hardware store, and we were in the plumbing section already looking for some other things, and I noticed this coiled copper tubing, and I picked it up and looked at it, and I was like, would this work for our shower curtain? So we ended up getting a compression fitting to hold it all together, and we just kind of uncoiled it because the coil came about this big, and then we just spread it out and it worked perfectly. The other thing that was kind of tricky with our barrel is the drain. Obviously there was no hole in there originally, And we were struggling, trying to figure out what we could do for a drain. A traditional bathroom shower tub drain was way too large because of the size of the boards in the barrel itself. We didn't want to have to cut where two boards were meeting and have it overlapping because we were afraid of leaks. And we ended up finding this drain was for a bar sink. And it ended up fitting perfectly in the center board so that it's not on a seam at all.
Does it drain pretty well, or does water stay at the bottom?
It does, but the wine barrel itself is lower on the outside edge, and there is a small groove around the edge. So you'll notice on the ground here we have a couple sponges, and we do have to clean it regularly. We just use boiling water. We also do rinse it out at the end of showering every day, just to make sure that it's not going to get all gross and nasty.
Mm-hmm. Just like any other shower, you have to clean it.
Yep, yeah. Exactly. We did set up our house for a composting toilet, but we, the property that we're on, we don't own, and the property owner wasn't comfortable with us using the composting toilet because he was worried about what the county might say. So right now, we just use it for our dirty clothes. And there's a bathroom in the building that's about 30 feet away from the house that we use in the office there. So right next to our toilet area, though, there is an entry for Seth Cat to go into his cat litter.
And that was something you had planned beforehand?
It was, yeah. We use a pine cat litter, and we clean it out every day for sure because we didn't want there to be a smell, especially in such a small area. But it's really funny how many people come over and visit, and the first comment they make when they see Seth Cat is they are like, well, I don't smell cat litter. Where's the cat litter at? So I always send people on a little trek through the house to try to figure out where it is.
The treasure hunt?
Yeah.
To try to find the kitty.
Uh-huh.
When it comes to the actual design of the bathroom, too, because we get this comment a lot, is why we made it so big. We're two people in our space, so we wanted to design it so that we could both be here at the same time. And he can shower, I can get ready, plenty of space.
Yeah, and it's really funny because a lot of people come in and they say, oh, your bathroom's kind of small, but one thing that we had talked about probably, was it maybe a year or two after moving in and being in the space regularly, we realized that this is a way larger space than we even need for the bathroom because really you don't spend nearly as much time as you might think you do in there. Mm-hmm. And it's space that could have possibly been better utilized for something else. At one point, we had talked about and considered putting a little desk and workspace in here because we weren't using it really as a bathroom other than showering. Mm-hmm. But we decided to go with it out there instead. I mentioned that we had set up for solar, and we have a 4-gallon hot water heater. And we decided that we didn't want to have our water heated all the time when we weren't using it. So we put a switch on the hot water heater right down there. You'll notice there are 2 switches because we also have a pump for getting water from our tank. Being in Washington, it does get below freezing in the winter. And so occasionally we do need to disconnect our hose because it would freeze. And we had a custom it's about 38-gallon steel water tank built. And then there's just a little SureFlow RV pump down on the side of the tank that will draw water for us when we need it.
And another reason why we decided to do this is we did not have a set idea of where we were going to end up. And so there was a possibility that we would just be putting our house out on some property with no electricity, no water, and so we wanted to have the option of doing complete off-grid if that was going to be something that ended up being the only option for us. So that was another reason why we decided to do the on-storage tank.
How can you tell when it's getting low, the water tank?
You can hear it. Right? You can hear when it starts to get low because the pump changes its tone. And because it's a knocking sound, and so all of a sudden the knocking sound gets longer and drawn out.
Oh.
And so that's when it's only happened once, in which he was taking a shower that the tank had actually drained, and so I had to go outside and refill
While
it
you
at the
sat
same
in there.
time.
Yeah.
In the wintertime, once it's completely filled, if it's both of us in the house using it, it's about 3 or 4 days that we have to refill it. There was one time period in which it was only me in the house for 6 weeks, and I calculated I only had to fill it once every 10 days.
Our loft is 10 feet long. Up at the end, we've got a couple of small closed storage bins for the things that we don't use very frequently. And then there's also about 1.5 feet of space down at this end. So if we turn the mattress this way, there's
We gain a ton
yeah, there's
of
like
space.
3.5 feet of
Yeah.
space down here at the end. So our loft is definitely probably bigger than we need it to be, but we wanted the little landing pad to be able to kneel on as you crawl up and then crawl into the bed.
We do get asked a lot why we didn't put a skylight in our loft space, and honestly, we're only up here when we're sleeping, and so we like it nice and dark.
Okay, so let's discuss the exterior. What kind of siding did you use?
So we have cedar siding.
I know it's a type of bevel, so each plank is sitting on top of the other one's groove, and so lining it up to make them straight was super easy.
And did you paint it or stain it or?
We used
Yes.
stain. They had a couple different types of stain, but the one that we got was supposed to be like a 5-year stain. So that is one consideration, is you'll need to restain it every couple of years just to keep it waterproof. When we designed the house, we had no idea where we were going to park it, and so we wanted the ability to have electricity and to be completely off-grid. And so we set it up to have solar with an inverter that we could hook a generator to if we needed to. You'll notice our water fill right here. Right now we have it hooked to city water, so it's hooked to a frost-proof hydrant. And there's also a fill port to fill the tank from right here. So yeah, we just picked this up at an RV store and installed it, and it's worked out great for us. And then you'll notice we also have our gray water coming out right here. So we have a bit of a French drain. We dug it all out, and we've got just some gravel, some drainage rock.
So it's essentially just like a 2-foot hole that's filled in with rock, just a simple French drain. And all the water is coming out. We use eco-friendly soaps to, as you can see, the grass around this area is probably the greenest grass on the property.
So we have our propane tank over here. Our initial plan was to put the propane tank inside that same case at the front. But once we got the inverter and realized which one we wanted, I started reading about it, and it said to keep all flammable items at least 12 feet away, because there are switches inside it that could cause a spark. And so we wanted to make sure we were nice and safe.
How often do you have to refill it?
We only have to refill it once every 5 to 6 months.
Oh wow.
So for about $40 a year.
So our 2-burner stove is the only thing that we're running off of propane, but we do use it every day. We
Yeah.
make tea in the morning, or hot water, and we cook dinner. Usually you cook lunch.
Yeah.
So it does get used.
And our utility wise, even our electric bill, we only actually spend about $300 a year on electricity also.
Do you guys have a rent payment here?
Yep, we pay the landowner $300 a month.
So your guys' total like monthly bills for housing is something like 300 and I don't know.
Yeah.
$10.
Yeah.
It's really low.
I always say that our relationship has grown since moving into our tiny house, because we're so much more aware of each other's needs and personal space that we say please and thank you so much more. And you know, there's not one thing that we don't do together. So if he's washing dishes, I'm drying and putting away. If he's cleaning the litter box, I'm taking it out. You know, it's a teamwork. One of the things when it comes to, you know, living in a smaller space is the communication becomes that much stronger. And so instead of running away from our problems, we're forced to, actually face them and solve whatever issues.
Yeah, we just try to be very courteous of each other, anything that we're doing in the house. If she's already in the kitchen making dinner, I'll ask her would you either like me to stay out of your way, or is there something I can do to help?
I tell them to get out of my kitchen.
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
Get out of my kitchen. We did have the mind that we were going to have kids, and so, we're not the first ones to have kids in a tiny house. We won't be the last ones. It's worked out for others. But we did design it so that, we can add in a second loft if we need be for, sleeping or, again, that's why our loft is so big too, because we could essentially put another mattress up there. We plan on staying in the house probably, an extra 7 years or so before deciding to move into a smaller house. And by small, it's like 400 square foot, but we'll always have our tiny house with us.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for taking us through the tiny house. I know that this tiny house in particular has been an inspiration to a lot of people. You guys really helped us with our build, so it's really nice to get all the dirty details on the tiny Tack house.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you for
coming
stopping
out.
by.
Yay!
Yay!
All right, guys, see you next time.
Just like that, yeah. All right.
That'll make the
And Silly Suspin.
silly
And the
suspicion.
background.
Oh, did you see the hummingbird fly right in front of us?
All right.